Hey, what's up, YouTube? Well, I'm here today with the test results. I told you guys a couple months ago that I was going to be testing my old inverter batteries, the AGMs, to see if I can revive these things, bring them back to life. And I did get some life back out of them. I think, unfortunately, these were just too damaged to fully restore. But I think if you have a new AGM battery and you want to keep it in tip-top shape, I think what I've discovered will help you do that. So there is some truth to what you can see or hear online about reviving or reconditioning batteries, I guess you would call it. They call it a lot of different things. So since these batteries were both in identical conditions, I took advantage of that and used that to test. I tested more on this battery than I did this battery. With this battery, I just experimented around with all the different procedures I showed you guys in my previous video that you can find on the internet to see what gave me the most results. So then once I figured out a plan of what I think would give me the most results, I executed that plan on this battery and confirmed that yes, it does give the best results. So first of all, if your battery, if you can access the cells, and this was very hard to do on this battery, go ahead and pop those things open. You're going to see the plates in there, and then it's going to have a fiberglass mat in between the plates. It's white, and chances are it's probably going to be very dry. And just fill that thing up with water. Now, not all the way. I brought the water up to the very top of the plates, and you'll see that fiberglass mat will absorb the water. You'll have to add some more, and it's going to absorb water, but eventually it's going to stop absorbing water, and then it's going to be level with the top of the plates. That's where you want to stop. This is not like a lead acid battery where you bring it all the way up to like a ½ inch at the bottom of the hole. No, this is just to get those mats wet again. They need to be wet. So you can do that. I personally used reverse osmosis water. I did not use distilled water, and the reverse osmosis water worked just fine. Didn't hurt anything. So both batteries started off the same. I charged them all the way with a smart charger for AGM batteries till it was full and the charger shut off. Let it rest overnight, and I did my first test. So what I did was I drawed down to 12 volts, which you can see by the chart is 50% state of charge. Yeah, I know, 12.05, whatever. I did 12 volts, okay? So that test only gave me 8 amp hours of capacity on both batteries. Okay, so that's a good starting point. So this battery, what I did first was I put the power supply on it, set it to 16 volts, and just let it charge overnight. And the current never really got that high. It started off at maybe a couple amps, and as the voltage got higher, the current intake got lower, and it eventually settled down around 500 milliamps. That's what it was the same result on both batteries. So the current is never going to be high. The one paper I have says limit the current to 500 milliamps. You can if you want. I don't really think it's going to matter. I think the batteries limit themselves as to how much current they take in. It's really the voltage that is destroying the sulfation and restoring the capacity. So anyways, charged up 16 volts, just let that charger run overnight, took the charger off, let the battery rest for a day. Then I did another test, drained it down to 12 volts. You can see I got over double the capacity. I went from 8 amp hours to 19 and a half. Okay, so I did the test again. Didn't really get that much more. After, we're talking more days have gone by. Same procedure. It went from 19 and a half to 19.7 amp hours. So then I said, okay, we're not really gaining anymore by charging the 16 volts and then doing our test. See what happens now if I do a deep discharge. Did a deep discharge down to 10.6 volts, and that was a total of 33.4 amp hours. Then I charged it all the way up again with the smart charger, not to 16 volts, just the smart charger to full. Did another 12 volt drain. We went from 19.7 amp hours to 21.8. So really, again, not that much to gain. I did a couple more 12 volt drains and a couple more deep discharges, and then it got to the point where my amp hour capacity was actually going down. I was getting less than what I started at, what I got in about midway of the test. You know, my highest peak on a 12 volt drain was 21.8 amp hours. And then we're starting to fall backwards now. We're at 20 amp hours even. So that's when I stopped. I said, okay, now we're not gaining any ground. So I said, okay, this battery, in my mind, what I think is going to work best is we started from full. I immediately went and drained all the way down to 10.6. Did a full drain. Then I charged all the way up to 16 volts. Let that charge run overnight. Let it rest for a day. Did my first measurement, and we got 25 amp hours. So that's a pretty good improvement over my first procedure. I only got 19 and a half. All right. So then I did that procedure one more time, and I got 27. And I decided to cut it there, because the experience with this battery is that the more you do it, it's not really helping anything. I think, you know, one cycle is pretty good. I mean, I went from 8 amp hours to 25. So that's quite a bit of sulfation destroyed there. So I think this test shows what you need to do on a AGM battery. If you can, make sure your water is full. Make sure your battery is fully charged when you start this procedure, and just drain it all the way down to 10.5 volts. According to the chart, 10.5 volts is 0% state of charge. Then put it on a power supply. Set your power supply for 16 volts. Just let it charge overnight, and then you're done. You've wiped out as much sulfation as you can, because as you can see, you know, from doing the second procedure, I didn't really gain that much. I gained 2 amp hours. I don't really think that's worth doing a whole nother procedure for 2 more amp hours. But that is worth doing a procedure from going from 8 amp hours to 25. That's a pretty significant increase. And you know, that's about the best I'm going to get out of these batteries, because they were severely abused. I was discharging them way too far all the time, and then I was charging them too fast at too high of a C rate, and cooked off a lot of the the water in the batteries. So there you go. There's the test results, and there's what I believe is the best procedure. I think if you did this probably once every 6 months, just take your AGM battery and discharge it down to 10.5 volts, charge it with a power supply at 16 volts overnight, and then call it a day. You're good to go. I think any sulfation that's reducing your capacity has been destroyed. There might be a little bit left over, but it's really not worth doing the procedure over again. And if you do the procedure too much, you will start to damage it, which is shown here. So there you go. Hope it helps.